Welcome into MTP on the 617 presented by Crowworthy. I am Joe Malkin with Mike Marcangelo, and we are joined this evening by our friend of the show, Karen Guregian, who it covers the Patriots for the Boston Herald. And she's had a lot to cover this week, that's for sure. And the last time we talked, we were talking about who was going to be the offensive coordinator, what was the quarterback going to look like, and how was the defense going to play. And Mike was concerned about the play of one Matthew Judon. So, Karen, now 2 months later, I have to ask, who's the offensive coordinator? How's the quarterback going to look? And is Matthew Judon going to be all right?
I'll answer the last one first. Matthew Judon's looked great.
Yeah.
Kind of just like he did last year at this time. So I think it's a matter of him staying healthy and maybe not playing every snap. Although he told us last week that he was doing extra type of conditioning to try and last through the season. So he's aware. He's aware that he disappeared the last 5 games. And so, it's good to see he's trying to rectify that. So
Can I ask a devil's advocate question based on what you just said?
yeah.
Does that mean at like week 9, we're going to find out that he's getting suspended, a quote unquote different kind of conditioning?
I don't know. I would hope not. I would hope not.
Fair enough. Yeah, we won't jump more into that one. I'm really coming out firing here.
Right.
Real quick. I say real quick. We have forever right now, but I want to start with your column that came out in the Herald at 5:45 a.m. on August 30th. Were you like writing that at 4:15, or had it been in it since like 11 o'clock the night before?
No, it was probably even a little earlier than that, but that's when they programmed it to fly online. Were you up at 5:45?
Yeah, I heard it on the radio on my way into work, and then I caught it elsewhere. But I'm up at about 6. Yeah, so it's pretty close.
So was I getting slammed real bad?
No, actually, and we obviously want to stay on the subject matter, but yeah, I was about to call in and say, hey guys, listen, no, you weren't. Actually, there was a lot of agreement, and I want to kind of read the tagline here right from the Herald. The Patriots offense in trouble? ? Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia say there's nothing to see here. That line right there says a lot to me, especially you adding Matt Patricia's name in there. Can I read between the lines and say what I think you're saying?
Be my guest.
He's the offensive coordinator.
De facto, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. Because they can't name him that because then they'd have to pay him.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
So is the offense in trouble?
Based on appearances and appearances alone, yeah, they have some trouble. They have some things, some holes to dig out of. But I don't think it's necessarily impossible for them to do so. It's just hard, based on, what we saw all through training camp, how we saw Mac Jones throughout training camp, his frustration, which was very obvious. And also, it's hard to wrap your head around the people who are leading him, with the exception of Bill Belichick. Right. So when you add all those things together, it's a little, you're kind of wondering, are they going to fix things? Are they going to scrap all the new stuff that they've been trying to do very unsuccessfully? And again, how's it going to look in about, a week and a half in Miami?
So my question, and I didn't know when I was going to ask this, but you just brought it up. It's my overarching question for this. Why would Bill implement this new offensive scheme and not bring in people who are familiar with running it elsewhere? In your opinion?
Well, again, That's kind of the $1 billion question. And it's not just that. It's like, why wouldn't he go out? And not only if he's going to change the offense or thinks it's a good idea to change the offense, like you said, bring in someone who's actually coached the offense, number one, or bring in an actual, wait for it now, offensive coach. It's kind of mind blowing and mind boggling. But Bill has all this cachet. He has 6 rings, and he's has a rope that's this long, and he can do whatever the heck he wants. It remains to be seen, though, if he can get away with this one. It might be okay if, okay, let Joe Judge be the quarterback coach, let Matt Patricia be the offensive line coach. Coach, in Bill's mind, coaches can coach. Doesn't matter which side of the ball or what side of the ball you've had more experience in, coaches can coach. But I think he's actually put Matt Patricia in an unfair position, both having to be the play caller and deal with all that, and also the offensive line. And I think what we've seen on the field, a disjointed, disheveled offensive line, a frustrated quarterback, is a result of all of the above.
What do you make of that frustration? Because that's not what, we didn't see that in his demeanor last year. And I think, Brady was emotional, not often, not on the field a lot, but to see a second year quarterback, and when he's saying things like, I think in your article recently you said that they're ironing out things, right? Or like you can see that he's visibly upset on the field. What's your take on that based on what you've seen? Does that mean that he doesn't think it's going to work with this new scheme, or is he just not used to adversity because he's always been a winner?
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of a compilation of things. They, by their admission and by everyone's admission, they had a really complicated, complex offense, which with Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels kept getting more complex every single year. And it got that much harder for receivers or anyone to figure out. But Mac Jones came in because he's a pretty smart guy, and he, pretty much mastered that offense in terms of running it. And so he's, he had a very good rookie year by any standard. And now he's thinking, okay, now let's go take it to the next level with this offense, which is so well suited to him, given his strengths, his ability to read defenses at the line, make quick decisions, get rid of the ball quickly. The Tom Brady offense, mind you. So he was very well suited to that. So now he comes in, he trims off all the body fat, and he's ready to, again. So he was here last year. He's ready to go there. And so now, for reasons we will probably discuss, they changed the offense. And now his offensive line doesn't get it. And that's causing problems. The runners can't run because people are missing assignments. He can't throw the ball because there's free rushers coming in at him from everywhere. And so I think a lot of the frustration is, again, from having to go backwards before he can go forwards. And everyone is basically learning a new offense, a new scheme, let's say. It's not that like they've totally junked everything, but they're trying very hard to be an outside zone running team. They're trying very hard to adopt a lot of the Shanahan principles in their offense. Some of their offensive linemen don't exactly fit that scheme.
Yeah, I can
So,
too.
but I mean, you can sort of understand it from a couple perspectives. Again, and I'm trying real hard to understand it or understand why. Um, for them to either draft receivers or have receivers come in, if you have an offense that's not so damn complex for them to figure out, you might be able to draw more good receivers into New England, or you might actually pick one in the draft that works out. I mean, that offense was a bear to learn. It really was. But again, that doesn't mean you can't learn it. But I also think, based on who Bill chose to teach the offense, be it Matt Patricia or Joe Judge, it was even too complex for them to teach. So let's change a lot of the terminology and the verbiage. Let's make it simple. Okay. Let's use numbers instead of whatever they were using. Let's simplify it so everyone can understand it and they're not so confused. Let's not have the receivers have to read the defense and all these complexities that went along with the old offense. Let's make it a little easier so for the receivers, so that the guys we're paying big money, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar, can be a little more involved and not look confused every play. I get that part. But then it comes back to what you guys said in the opening. Why not bring in someone who is actually worked in that offense, who knows the offense and has a better idea of how to teach it? And that's the mystifying part.
There's so much to unpack in what you just said.
I know I talked forever, didn't I? Sorry.
Yeah, it was perfect because there's so many talking points in there that, you mentioned the offensive linemen that don't fit that zone run scheme. And those two guys are Trent Brown and Isaiah Wynn. And those two guys don't have a lot of buy-in right now. We've seen Trent Brown quit on the two other teams he's been on. Isaiah Wynn, one, can't stay healthy, and two, not his style of offense to run. And three, he just doesn't seem to buy in. Now, that seems to be a theme on the offense.
Can I jump in for 1 second?
Yeah.
On that, Isaiah Wynn actually fits the scheme better than because he's actually pretty athletic and can move a little bit. And again, that's what, on these wide sweeping type runs, you need the tackles to get the hell out, pardon my language, out in front and move. And he can move. Trent Brown can also move. I think Isaiah Wynn's problem is more about, I'm playing right tackle. I used to be a left tackle. So, that's not going to help me when I'm a free agent next year, because right tackles don't get paid as much as left tackles. On the other side, Trent Brown agreed to a deal with all these incentives, but the base pay is for a right tackle, not a left tackle. They never told him they were going to move him to left tackle. So now he's a little out of shape because he's not getting paid like a left tackle. So there you have it.
So there's the disgruntled employee part right there. And
I think so. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but if you read the tea leaves, that's what it is.
And with the wide receivers, and again, I just don't see a lot of buy-in. And then we have the conversation, and I'm kind of going off a little bit off of what you said, but I'm going to bring it back. And now we have the conversation looming. Is Kendrick Bourne even going to be on this team on September 11th? Which, my personal opinion, if Bill trades a guy like that, he's going to lose me a little bit, because I think he was one of the most reliable guys in that offense last season. And you need a guy like that to be around. There was also the rumors of Damian Harris either being cut or traded as well. There's too many guys. There's too many rumors. Plus now, like you said, you have a Joe Judge and a Matt Patricia trying to teach a complex offense when they're not offensive coaches.
It's simplified.
Right. I know, but
Streamline.
But
It's
that's
in here.
right. But that's the point I'm kind of getting to, is that like you have a defensive guy and a special teams guy teaching a complex yet less complex offense than they used to have with Tom Brady.
Mhm.
But you even wrote August 27th, 12:46 a.m. Mac Jones can't hide his frustration. So it's like, I see, and who's going to want to come here when the rumor and the talk is that Bill Belichick drove Tom Brady out of Foxborough, and now you have a second-year quarterback who can't get his feet underneath him because the team is seemingly not allowing him to, and now he seems annoyed. So who's going to want to come here? Who's going to want to stay here? And that's going to be another issue trying to implement this offense when nobody wants to play it.
Well, I wouldn't say that nobody wants to play it. I actually think the receivers like it. I think Bourne might be disgruntled because he kind of moved down. He was all excited about it because he knew it. He played it when he was in
Shanahan offense.
Right. When he was in San Francisco, he played it. And I think he envisioned himself in this, much greater role. But then when training camp started and Nelson Aguilar really flashed for once, Devontae Parker comes in, is making all these acrobatic catches on the sideline. And oh my goodness, a rookie, Tyquan Thornton, actually looked like he could be a significant contributor. So all of a sudden, Kendrick Bourne is falling down down and down and down the depth chart. He's not playing with the first team. He's playing with the second and third team when he's on the field. So I think that's more Bourne's issue, not the offense. So, and as I said, now Nelson Aguilar is liking it because guess what? He's much more comfortable, whatever the reason, and is making plays. He looks more like the receiver he was with the Raiders than the receiver he was last year. Devontae Parker has made some plays. He's not quite as consistent as I would like to see, but you can see how he can help them. I think the frustration is more, again, it starts up front. Mac's not getting protection, number one. And when they're trying to run the ball, it's like they're running into walls because people are missing blocks. And because there's free rushers coming in to, take the runners down. And if they can't, they have to lead with the run. And it's frustrating because they haven't been able to do that unless they use power runs, which has been their MO for so many years.
Can I ask a completely hypothetical question? But I started thinking about it when you were talking about Kendrick Bourne. What do you think would happen if Kendrick Bourne criticized the way that Bill was trying to implement an offense that he used to be involved in and ran at a high level?
Oh, he would be out of town.
So,
yeah.
You don't think it's as hypothetical as you think it is.
Well, because he was such a producer for this offense last year, right. And then everything that you just mentioned with Devontae Parker, with Nelson Aguilar, but it doesn't make sense to have someone again who's familiar with what this offensive scheme could look like successfully to be continue to be put down. So could that have happened? Like, is that why the Kendrick Bourne rumors are out there?
Well, yeah, I think there was a week there where weird things were happening at joint practices. He was getting in fights. He didn't have the right equipment on. I mean, it was a litany of things that happened where he kind of got in a doghouse a little bit. But I think the Patriots understand that they're still going to need Kendrick Bourne. I mean, talent-wise, he's their best receiver. I mean, all that he can provide. I mean, he's their most dynamic player. And he's somebody you can do so many things with, in this offense. So, and again, it's not like the Patriots have well, fine, he'll go, we'll just whatever, have somebody else. Or he'll go, that's okay, Tom will take care of it. There's no more Tom to take care of it. So, so they can't just, goodbye Logan Mankins, goodbye whoever. They, whoever the big move that Bill usually makes around this time of year to trade. Somebody sent somebody off, buy Lawyer Malloy to shake the foundation. Well, again, he doesn't have the ultimate closer and person who can make up for whatever he does, Tom Brady. So I don't think he can do those things anymore.
Without spending too much more time on, I could go on for hours about why this doesn't make any sense to me. But I how much of this switch is what you said? Not dumbing down the offense, but streamlining it so that it would be more desirable for a receiver to come over here and perform. I always think about Chad Ochocinco, who was a Pro Bowler, perennial Pro Bowler, was touted as one of the best practice players that we've ever seen, and just could never make the field.
Right.
And also
figure it out.
Right. And then also, how much of it is because I know that Bill has an affinity for Mike Shanahan and his scheme, right? Is that because, Mike Shanahan and the Denver Broncos beat Brady and Belichick with people like Brian Griese and Jake Plummer, quarterback?
Yeah. I think it's a combination of all those things, Mike. I think he's always, again, loved the Shanahan offense because he had such a hard time. Again, genius defensive guy defending it, right? So he's always admired it. But in two, again, if you have coaches, who have never coached offense before, have never called plays before, have never put together an offense before, there's no way that they can teach it. Okay. Much less for them understand it. Okay. So they had to so they had to put it in terms that they could understand, but also, or streamline. but I think trying to slowly implement or go more toward the Shanahan offense. Well, it's a copycat league. What's been winning?
But he's been a copycat coach.
Right.
That's the problem I have with it, is that he's never been that. So why now?
He doesn't have Tom Brady.
Right. Well, if 30% of the league is copying the Shanahan offense, how bad do you look if you try and you fail? Because they've all brought in people that have run it before, have familiarity with it. And he brings in the guy from the Idaho Institute of Technology to do this.
Because Bill, again, he's arrogant, he's stubborn, he thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And most of the time, it's true. He is smarter than everybody else. But he might just be a little too arrogant and a little too stubborn in this instance. Although, time out, I have heard there's been like behind the scenes talk. They're actually listening to Mac. Mac says they're listening to him. So I think if they would love this outside zone thing to work, but if it doesn't, they're not going to keep banging their heads against the wall. They see how much better he is in the shotgun rather than, what they're trying to do. So I think, before we totally clobber them or kill them, like I have, I think let's see exactly what they do in Miami. Are they going to keep running into walls, trying to run the zone scheme, the outside zone scheme, or are they going to be more toward what works or what's worked? And I also have a feeling too that, they haven't shown all that they're doing, and I'm sure they've kept a lot of things in-house, a lot of things top secret. they've probably practiced a lot of things when the media ain't looking. And we ain't looking anymore because, we're there for 10 minutes of, calisthenics as opposed to the entire 2 hours of practice. But I even think after the 2 hours of practice, whether it was in the film room or whatever room or going back out on the field, I think they have other things up their sleeve. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I cannot fathom it. Again, Bill has to see what everybody else sees. So, I don't think he's the type to keep banging his head against the wall.
Karen, my thing is we've had multiple conversations about this, and every time we're like, when are we gonna know more? And I've always said on the show, like, it's their business, it's their, like, yes, we pay for our tickets, we pay for our merchandise, we have this podcast. So I don't feel entitled to know things, but I feel like there should be things that we know. But every time we've talked to you or we've had a show, we've been like, when are we gonna learn who's calling the plays? When are we gonna learn XYZ? When are we gonna learn elemental P? When are we going to learn XYZ? And to me, this year, it feels like Belichick thinks he's playing chess while everyone's playing checkers, but he's actually playing Parcheesi. Like that's what it feels like to me.
Well, I have a couple of theories on it all. Again, from a logistical standpoint, whether it's Patricia calling the plays, whether it's Judge calling the plays, or even Belichick calling the plays, it's not like Miami or anyone else has this volume of film and library on how they like to call plays, what their tendencies are. There is no tendencies. There is no plays. There is no nothing. There's nothing on the books. And even if you count the preseason games, they were largely vanilla in their play calling. And that's, they don't scheme or game plan. I mean, we saw some of those outside zone runs, and boy, did they go backwards. But the totality of that offense, we really didn't see. So, getting back to my point, him not telling us who the guy is, or them, Matt Patricia still standing there and going, well, that was just for the preseason. I don't know what's going to happen. Well,
they're playing dumb is what you're telling us.
Yes, but
I'm playing.
But here's one other thing I think might be happening. I think Bill wants to see how it looks, or how it's working or not working. And I almost think he's like the last resort. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We'll let Matt do it, and they let Joe do it. Matt was like calling plays 1 minute and running to the offensive line the next minute and calling plays and then running to I mean, they had to kind of see it in action. You know what I'm saying? Or how it, did it work? Was it successful? And I think this week, I'm sure Bill has sat back and said, look, I'm going to call the plays. Or, you know what, Matt, you did a good job. That's good. Now we have to figure out how to fix the offensive line, So again, maybe we don't know, or maybe we haven't seen it because we don't know yet if Bill is just going to take it over.
The Patriots fan in me wants to be the fanboy and say, oh, it's all part of the master plan. Like it's all part of the master plan. Bill knows what he's doing. And then just speaking offensively, because we'll get to the defense and special teams in a couple minutes, because I have a couple questions for you on the defensive side too. But it just seems to me like it's like this master plan to make everybody else think that they don't know what they're doing because of what you just said, because we don't know what Matt Patricia is going to do. He didn't have any tendencies that he developed in Detroit.
Right.
And neither did Joe Judge in New York.
Nobody has any, there's nobody has a tendency, So again, that's why I think it's important for us to, it looks bad, But let's see what it really looks like against Miami. And, just by getting back to your point, you have this rookie quarterback last year who got you through a year, got you to the playoffs, looked like he had some promise. And then you give him a bunch of coaches who don't know offense. On the other side, you let J.C. Jackson walk. You don't really replace him. You have a group of corners that really there's no shuts down guy. There's no number one guy. And again, in this league, that's an offense-driven league on both sides, so you need to have the guns and the wherewithal on offense, but you also need to have cornerbacks galore on defense. He has safeties. Maybe that works. I don't know.
So I want to talk about the defense, but we can do that after Joe sends us to break. But I just have one other question about the offense, and really just like schematically at his age and after all of his accomplishments, how much is Bill risking by blowing up the entire scheme and having it fail? Because then it is all on him, right? He can't. There's no other scapegoat. I mean, if you're Robert Kraft, don't you say, well, you had an offense that's still for 20 years. You had a rookie quarterback come in and do pretty well. You actually made Cam Newton look serviceable for a year. You decided to change it and it blew up in your face. So you mentioned the rope earlier. If this fails, and the Patriots fan in me hopes that it doesn't, but the podcaster kind of likes the content. If it does fail, how much does that shorten the rope?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Bill and Mr. Kraft have some kind of arrangement. And, back when they had Brady, it was all about, well, he can retire. He can do what he wants. It's on his terms. He's won us 6 Super Bowls. We're going to leave it up to him. I almost think the same rules apply to Bill. And, maybe Bill, makes his own grave, so to speak. And then it becomes easier for the Crafts. But I mean, I still would find it tough to believe they'll actually fire the man.
Would the rope be way shorter if Jonathan Kraft was running the Patriots and Bill's scheme blew up?
I think so.
Same.
But yeah, I agree. And it's interesting as someone, we talk about who has the position and who's this and who's that. As someone who works in athletics, the guy or the person who is listed towards the top of a group is usually the one leading that group. And Matt Patricia is the first of the coaches on the offensive side. And one Steve Belichick is the first on the defensive side. And we are going to go to break, and then we'll come back and talk about Steve Belichick and the rest of that Patriots defense. But I also have a big market tease because there is a former defensive player for the New England Patriots who Karen talked to, who doesn't have as much faith in his position group as one might think. Let's get to the defensive side of things. Karen, Steve Belichick is the first listed coach on the website. I'm scrolling through it right now. Also, I didn't know Troy Brown was back on the staff, but that's besides the point. So Steve Belichick listed as a linebackers coach. So is Gerard Mayo. They're the top 2 coaches there. And we kind of opened talking about Matthew Judon, but I do want to ask you real quick. I like the teases, but I also have no patience. So you spoke to one Rodney Harrison recently, and you asked him about the safety position and how basically in so many words, how important it is. And he said in so many words, I'd rather have good cornerbacks. Was that in reference to this team or just in general?
Both, I think, because, I think we were talking about how good their safeties are and how deep the safety group is. And I said, too bad their cornerbacks aren't quite as deep. And that's when he kind of chimed in, well, I'd rather have great corners than great safeties. And again, the point being, there's a lot of great receivers out there. And the safeties aren't covering the great receivers. The safeties aren't covering Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Jamar Chase. Your cornerbacks are responsible for them, unless you're going to be in a zone all the time. And just like anything else, you can't. All the Patriot great defenses were predominantly man, but they did play zone as well. So it was a little bit of a mix of both. And again, if a defense knows all you're going to do is play man the whole game, I mean, the offense, they will find ways to get people open or ways to scheme against a totally all-man coverage team. So the Patriots did mix it up, and they would disguise, and they would do a lot of things. But for them, their defenses were good because they could man cover, and they could also play zone. This defense now, again, with their collection of safeties who are also like linebackers, would probably be good in a zone. But if you want to play man, are you going to count on Jalen Mills to cover Jamar Chase? Are you going to count on, Jonathan Jones, who you moved out from slot, to, cover these big receivers that they're going to face? George Pickens, Pittsburgh. So that's where the problem is. Again, it's hard now because all of these teams have not just one weapon, they have 2 and 3 and 4. So it is hard to match up man to man. But if you can take one guy in man coverage, that's going to help. The Patriots always had one guy who could shut down somebody. They don't have that guy now.
And that's after they cut down to 53-man roster. They cut Malcolm Butler, who was a shell of himself anyway.
Right.
They cut Terrence Mitchell, who looked awful in preseason. And Jonathan Jones is an above average corner, but you're right. He's a slot guy. And Jalen Mills to me is average at best. And then your number 3 corner is Miles Bryant, who looks great on special teams this year. And I do want to talk about him later, but yeah, there's no depth there. But then in the safety room, Kyle Duggar is playing over Adrian Phillips and Jabril Peppers. And Adrian Phillips and Jabril Peppers were 2 really big names in the NFL for a handful of years. And I mean, why so many? Why 4 suitable safeties and you have maybe 1 combined corner? Like, is he really putting that much onus on the front 7 this year?
Yeah, because again, if you can, first of all, stop the run, which they haven't done effectively, right? So if you can actually stop the run and make a team one-dimensional, in theory, they're easier to defend because they're passing.
Sure.
And again, 2 safeties, I am positive they will start with 3 safeties on the field and perhaps even 4 at times. So you're going to see all of them. But I think, it will depend on the situation.
And Duggar has that ability to come down and play in a linebacker position, much like Rodney Harrison did.
Yes.
I really like Kyle Duggar. And this is the part I wish Craig was here. Craig loves Kyle Duggar. I'm surprised he doesn't have his jersey yet. He's been my bright spot, but that you just mentioned, they got to be able to stop the run. Well, they have the front 7 to do that, because I haven't seen too much from Mac Wilson here to see if he can cover the pass, but I sure as heck know that Judon and Bentley can't. So it's, like they're edge rushers and they can cover the flats, but they're terrible in coverage.
Yeah. I haven't seen too much in terms of pass coverage, but I do know between Raekwon McMillan and Mac Wilson, they can go side to side. So those runs around the edges, when Judon doesn't hold the edge, they get there fast. Whereas last year they were just blowing by Hightower or blowing by Jamie Collins or blowing by, name a slow linebacker,
The guy they traded for Mac Wilson.
Yeah, right. So, the fact that McMillan and Wilson offer they're a little better at containing, stopping runs at 5 or 6 yards rather than having go for 24. Do you know what I'm saying? So, so there's a purpose there. My concern is, we'll see over the middle, either with the backs or the tight ends coming out, because against the Raiders, we saw a lot of wide open space in the middle. So, but again, they'll have time to, fix that problem.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Bill sees these 2 weeks between the game against the Raiders and the game against the Dolphins as a good opportunity because, like you said, you guys aren't there for more than 10 minutes now.
Right.
You mentioned there, and I know Mike started there, so I want to make this quick, but you said we could see 3 to 4 safeties on the field at a time. Is there a possibility we see 4 linebackers on the field at a time? Because you mentioned Wilson, McMillan, and then they also have Josh Uche too.
Well, again, it's where they're going to align. I mean, Uche is going to be a situational pass rusher. So he's coming in off the edge because he can't hold the edge in the run when they're running. For some reason, he hasn't quite grasped that concept. So he's going to be, actually, Anthony Jennings does a better job. So I think you'll see Jennings on the earlier downs, the running downs, and you'll see Uche on the passing downs playing opposite Judon on the opposite side. I think you might have two total linebackers because let's face it, Duggar is like another linebacker.
Yeah.
Based on what he can do. And Jabril Peppers is the same thing. So again, I think they have versatility with their safeties. They can make up for not having linebackers, and they can also provide the speed that your linebacking group just didn't have last year.
So I know that corners on this current team, but there's no one out there that just stands out to you and says that they're the number one. Listen, I'm a Patriots pessimist.
Well, can I time out? Jalen Mills has actually done that. He was their best player in camp.
Could he cover?
Well, let's see. Day one against Devontae Adams, he got torched. Then he held his own on day 2. So, I mean, he competes. He's not a number 1 corner. But basically what you have is you have guys slotted wrong. Like Mills should either be a number 2 or a slot. That's my opinion. John Jones should be a slot, not a boundary. Unless, again, it's for a specific matchup. In the past, they have used him. They have used him against Tyreek Hill when they played the Chiefs.
Yep.
They used him last year against Antonio Brown on the boundary when they played Tampa Bay. So it's not like this is foreign to him. So maybe he's out there right now just because of the matchups they're going to see early. But again, he's out of position. So it's Miles, Brian.
So I was actually going to go more positive and say, I'm not worried about Belichick's ability to find a good defensive back because Logan Ryan was nothing before he was here, and then he got paid big bucks and did pretty well in Tennessee. Malcolm Butler wasn't a number 1 until he was here. I mean, J.C. Jackson. So the reason why I asked that is because I've heard a lot about Jack Jones.
Yep.
Does it feel like he could be the next version of that story? I'm not saying he's going to be number 1, but
he was drafted.
Right.
They have better luck with the corners they don't draft, the undrafted, as opposed to the ones that Joanne Williams, 2nd round pick. Terrible.
terrible.
I mean, they have a long list of corners that they took in the second round that have just been busts. But for every bust, they've had a Malcolm Butler, a Logan Ryan, somebody, that, kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, Jack Jones was a 4th round pick. So he's not nobody.
Yep.
But I think probably the plan for down the road, maybe, even several games in, I wouldn't put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Jones is one of the boundary corners and they move John Jones back inside. Again, that's just a hunch, a guess. Bill doesn't tend to like to rely on rookies all that much, but maybe out of necessity and based on the fact that Jack Jones shows like natural skills to be a cover guy.
Yep.
He's not a big guy. He's not a tall guy, but he has really, really good instincts and ball skills, and he plays tough. I mean, think Asante Samuel. He's that type of defender.
I like that.
Yes, it's all like when you watch him this year and then you hear all the stories in training camp, it brings me back to that 2014 preseason, like when we first found out about Malcolm Butler.
Malcolm Butler, yeah.
Like you didn't know who this guy was, but he was playing everybody tight, and he didn't make every play, but he was there.
Yeah.
So, and sorry to cut you off, Joe, but I do, you brought up a good point, Karen. I just want to. Could be a small tangent, but it's fine. As a defensive guru, why can't Bill draft corners well high, but he can pick people off the street? Like, how does that happen?
One of life's great mysteries. I don't know. Beats me. Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense because he's a good. Bill Belichick is a pretty good 1st and 2nd round drafter, not wide receiver, but defensively, he's pretty good. Not corner.
Front 7. Yeah. It's always been front 7.
He moved up to get Barmore last year. And Barmore, I think, is going to be a real star, on their defense. He's going to be like a pillar, a cornerstone player on their defense. And, Bill was shrewd enough to move up to get the guy. So, I think, again, those guys he doesn't miss on, it's just the receivers.
Yeah.
And the corners.
So speaking of the defensive line, Dietrich Wise, Devon Godshaw, Christian Barmore, Lawrence Guy are your friend 4. Sounds like a really good defensive line to me. I like all those guys. I think all 4 of them played well this preseason. Did they overpay for Devon Godshaw, and why did they pay so much for him? Did I ask your question, Mike?
Yeah.
No, I just want to hear this answer.
Okay, good. Why did they pay him so much?
Because they needed to create cap space, number 1. But number 2, I don't think they thought that there was anybody in the left in free agency that would be better than him. Somehow they actually saw good things from him last year. And there were, I mean, his problem was consistency. He'd be good in one game or really good in one game and then invisible in the next. So again, they know more about how they're scheming, how they're attacking, what Godchild's role is supposed to be in one game to the next. So, without being privy to that, just to the lay eye, again, as I said, oh man, he looked great in that game. Oh, was he awful in that game? But if you ask Bill Belichick, he's one of the top defensive nose tackles in the league. But I'm just telling you. What's been said. And Devon Godshaw buys into that as well and thinks he's pretty hot shakes. So I want to see it. That's all I'm saying.
Before you go, Joe, Karen, do you think in your heart of hearts, with your eyes of eyes, and with your brain of brains, that Devon Gacha is the 12th best defensive tackle in the National Football League?
No.
Because that's what he's being paid as.
Right. No. Answer no.
Perfect. All I wanted.
Yeah. No, I don't. But as I said, now that he's been put in this category, he's got to show it. Not one game, not a good game here and there. You know, he has to be Vince Wilfork.
Right.
End of story.
Well, Vince Wilfork will be there on September 24th or September 25th for the opening game, which I can't wait for that halftime. I always love those halftime ceremonies for the Hall of Fame, and this is going to be a good one. What's your confidence level in the defense this year? We know the confidence level in the offense. As you said, it's kind of waning. You don't want to judge it until we see it. What do you think about the defensive side of the ball?
Let me make a bigger picture what I think. Okay. And actually somebody said it to me and I don't remember, but I think it's pretty on target. I actually think this team from start to finish will play and perform better than last year's team, but I don't think they'll have the same record as last year's team. I think they'll be worse than last year's team record-wise, basically because I think the schedule is much tougher than what they had last year. I mean, they don't have an overwhelming, super duper talented roster, but I think their roster is decent. I actually think their pieces on offense are decent.
Right.
So if they actually figure it out or figure out what works best, or if Belichick just takes the play sheet from Patricia and calls the plays, I think they'll be able to move the ball and score points. Once they, get out of this funk that they're in trying to figure out a new scheme or whatever. I do think, again, the parts in the offense have improved. But a big part of that is going to be how the offensive line plays.
Sure.
I think the defense, with the exception of cornerback, yes, they've added speed at linebacker, which is a problem. They're going to need some guys to step up on the defensive line because it's basically like the same thing we saw they had last year.
Right.
So either they got to coach it up better, scheme it up better, or hello, Garchow, you got to earn your keep. So, but if those type of things happen, I mean, people forget this. They actually had the number 3 scoring defense last year.
Yep.
The lasting memory was not, Buffalo not punting the last 2 times they played. And that basically killed everything for what the defense did all year.
Right.
The fact that they had no clue how to stop Josh Allen in that offense. Will they make him punt this year? I think that's the big question. But they're going to get by teams. They're not going to get blown out. It's more a question of, has the offense improved to the point where they can win 30-20, where they can win 24-18, where they can score enough points, to win more than they lose.
We can only hope.
Based on what you've seen, how many wins would you take away from the Patriots' record because of the decision to change offensive schemes? Meaning, I agree with you. I think that they're going to perform better. I think they're going to play harder. I think they're actually more talented on offense this year than they were last year.
Yeah.
They just decided to blow it up and say, you know what, Mac, let's just try something new. So instead of going 11-6, a step up from 10-7 last year, do you think that they run the risk of going 8-9?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I do think a lot of that too is, again, the schedule. The first 4 games, they could easily go on 4. As Bill says, well, we don't know till October. We're still working things out. But again, I hate to keep harping on this narrative, but in the old days, they had Tom Brady while they were working things out. And he could win games for you while you're still slowly getting into your groove, or slowly, maturing the offense, or slowly maturing the defense. Brady could bail you out of whatever growth process you were making. It's hard to have faith in a second-year quarterback to do that. I mean, even though I like Mac Jones, I like his skill set, I like what he could be. I just hate to think that he has to take 3 steps backwards before he goes forward.
Oh, I thought you had something, Mike. I was going to say, go ahead.
No, I mean, Karen just said it for me. I was the same. Right, you stripped him of it.
Right. Just gonna say, getting back to the schedule. So in Miami, where they don't win,
Loss.
In Pittsburgh, now people just say, "Oh, they don't have a quarterback," but you know what? They have a good team, and I
had a quarterback than last year.
Exactly. They have a quarterback who can move, which something Roethlisberger couldn't do, and Roethlisberger basically went off the cliff last year. So whether it's Trubisky or the rookie, I think there might be better. So they're going to be they're going to be tougher than a lot of people think. So then they come back and have to play the Ravens. Then they have to go to Green Bay. Are they coming out 1-3, 0-4? I mean, I think people are wishful thinking, 2-2.
Oh, I was going to say, I think 2-2. I think they start 0-2.
Yeah.
I don't, for some reason, and we can get into this if you'd like, Lamar Jackson doesn't scare me. And the fact that Belichick was able to beat him with Cam Newton, that's all I needed to see. And then Aaron Rodgers, his binky's gone. Like Devontae Adams is gone. He is the most talented quarterback, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league for sure. But
still not easy to beat them there. They've beat them here.
Yeah.
There is another question.
Yeah, we lost. We lost there with Revis and Browner.
Okay, let's give them 2-2 if that's what you're saying.
Mike just has an innate thing against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. He just has a bias again, but that's besides the point. 2-2.
All right. The middle of the schedule, just like last year, there's a lot of wins in there. Yeah. And maybe they win 7 in a row like they did last year. Okay. So then maybe you're 8 wins, 9 wins in that ballpark there. Maybe not quite. The last 5 games, Buffalo at home.
That's a loss.
Okay. They go out west for Monday night in Arizona. And then they play the Raiders 6 days after that. So that's maybe 1-2.
Yep.
They come back from that West Coast trip and play the Bengals. They ain't beaten the Bengals.
Oh.
Then they play Miami again. Again, they went 0-2 against Miami last year. And then they finish with Buffalo, in Buffalo.
On January 8th.
Right. So again, I'm just looking at the parts of the schedule.
Right.
And saying tough, really tough at the start, more than tough at the finish. And they didn't finish good last year.
So as opposed to me just ask you, like, hey, Karen, what do you think the Patriots are going to finish at? I would love to do what we just did and just go through the entire schedule so that we can get Karen's Patriots record pick, if you're okay with that.
Let's do it.
Week 1 at Miami.
Loss.
Zone 1. Week 2 at Pittsburgh.
Win.
All right, 1-1. Baltimore, week 3.
Loss.
That's 1-2. Green Bay.
Loss.
Oh boy, 1-3. Detroit.
Win.
Cleveland.
Win.
Back to 500. The Bears.
Win.
We're 4-3 now. And the Hollywood, I guess the Halloween Eve matchup against the Jets.
Win.
Colts.
Loss.
Okay. Jets.
Win.
So after a bye week, yep, and then at Minnesota on Thanksgiving. You got to say it.
That's a tough one.
Kirk Cousins. No, stop.
Yeah, I know. But look at the receivers he has. Okay, they're going to win on Thanksgiving.
So what is that now, Joe? Is that
7-4?
7-4? All right. So Buffalo,
Loss.
Arizona,
Win.
8-5. Okay. Raiders,
Loss.
Cincinnati, are you lost?
Loss.
So now is that 8-7?
That's 8-7.
Dolphins, Bills.
Win Dolphins, lose Buffalo.
9-8.
9-8.
9-8. I agree with you. I think they might lose that Packers game. Going through that with you, I have them at 7-10, but 9-8. I'm sorry, I have them at 8-9.
Well, if they put it this way, people are going to assume like Detroit and Chicago are cupcakes. I think Detroit has improved, so they can't. If they take any of these teams lightly, again, they're not in a position where they can take teams lightly.
Right.
They have to beat the teams they should beat, and then we'll really know if they're in trouble if they don't.
Is the AFC East passing by Bill Belichick and the Patriots? Because we've seen Miami improve, Buffalo got better, and my personal opinion, I think the Jets got better. But what are your thoughts on the AFC East as a whole?
Well, I think the Jets, talent-wise, improved hugely. But again, their quarterback is a question mark. And again, it's one of those things you have to see. Is he gonna? I mean, Josh Allen actually looked like this kid the first year. Wild throws, throwing around. Trying to show off that arm, but not coming close to hitting his receivers or just throwing it to the other team. We'll see if he can, again, being in New York, it's different being in Buffalo, but be in New York and basically take advantage of all that they've put around him. And that's a big question mark, whether he can or can't. I think their defense will improve because they've had a second year to adapt to Saleh's system. But are they ready to legitimately contend and compete this year? I don't think so. And again, it's all predicated on the quarterback.
Could the Jets steal a game from the Patriots? You have them both as
Maybe,
wins.
yeah, they could. But I'm gonna, because of Belichick's hatred of the Jets, I'm gonna keep it at that beating them twice.
I think two big things for the Jets regarding their quarterbacks. One, Zach Wilson needs to stop hanging out with his mom's friends. And two, they already have an elite quarterback as their backup. Joe Flacco's the backup there.
Mm.
He just went on a run. That's he had one run and it paid his entire career. It was a great run.
And that's been the joke around him his entire career now.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, New York, the Jets they're in prove-it mode.
Right.
Yeah. They have, again, they improved their draft was unbelievable. The last couple of years of drafts have been unbelievable. They signed some free agents who were going to help. So you have, a much improved roster, but it still goes back to, can they all put it, can it all come together this year?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Is it fair to say that the Patriots are closer to the Jets than they are the Bills? Record-wise.
Yeah, I see the Jets around 6-win team.
All right, so you had us at 8-9. They're at 5 or 6. What are the Bills going to be at? 12?
11 or 12. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's...
But again, the Bills' schedule ain't no picnic either.
Right.
They start right away playing the Rams. So, and again, they have to play the same teams that are in the way for the Patriots as well.
Yep.
They just have a better team to deal with it. That's all.
Right.
You know,
They still can't run the ball. Their quarterback's still going to be their leading rusher.
right. You know, but who knows? If he goes down, they go down.
Right.
There's no question about that.
They don't have Mitch Trubisky anymore.
Right.
Come on.
So, yeah. So you almost got that one by me.
I did. Almost. When you said right, I was like, I got her.
You almost got that by me. But still, again, talent-wise, you know, pound for pound, it's tough to match up with Buffalo has right now. And again, the advantage the Patriots had for so many years over everybody wasn't necessarily that, you know, they had more talent than everyone else. They had Brady.
Right.
Well, Buffalo has Josh Allen, and that's significant. He's the best quarterback in the division. He's one of the top, if not the best one in the AFC. That makes a huge difference in this NFL.
Before you wrap it up, Joe, and they can cut this off if they like, because it's not totally Boston related. This could be an episode of Karen After Dark. But what do you make of the Tom Brady saga with Giselle leaving the family residence today? What is happening there?
Well, I think he's
I didn't even see.
well, he's 45 years old, and in his words, shit happens. And you have to deal with things. And I think he's dealing with a marital situation. I don't know that for a fact, but the evidence points in those directions. I think that she was expecting him to retire. He did retire, and he's back for more.
After 40 days.
So I could see how that might upset her.
Will he, if he's still in the top 5 of passing yards and the MVP voting this year, does he retire after the end of the year? But don't people, quarterbacks only retire when they're past their prime and they happen to win a Super Bowl, or they're just past their prime?
No, he retires when he sucks.
Right. So he's just gonna keep going. That's what I think too. That's what I think too.
I'm just going on what he said. When he's not good anymore, he'll know when to leave. Or I think if he wins it, somehow wins another one, wins this year, given what's may or may not be happening at home, I think that'll be it. Because if we all remember, 45 was the magic age.
Right.
He wanted to play and prove that he could play at 45.
He turned 45 29 days ago.
Right. So if he's still playing at Tom Brady near peak performance and they win, see you later.
So as we wrap it up, and he's definitely going against the whole happy wife, happy life thing right now. It's just a weird, my 2 cents. It's just a very strange, awkward situation that happens to happen during camp. And it's like, I don't know, but we may never know. Honestly, his personal business.
Like the Malcolm Butler mystery. We'll never know.
We'll know. I guarantee you we're going to know it someday. You know what? Some archaeologist in 3,000 years is going to uncover the secret of Malcolm Butler.
I think you know, Karen.
Me?
Yeah.
If I knew, you would know.
Oh, my.
Blink twice if you know.
It's like the best kept secret. Although I do think that there are writers out in Tampa Bay who know why Tom went away, or know what.
Without a doubt.
But again, do you want to cross Tom? I mean, would you want to do that as a journalist?
No.
Some would, but
right.
The people who know aren't those types.
Yeah, it's probably a very small select camp that actually know. And I think you're right. And I think this is kind of what you were alluding to. We'll know this before we ever know what happened with Malcolm Butler in that Super Bowl.
I think so.
I agree. So last question before we go. Does Bill make a splash in free agency or make a trade before the Miami game on September 11th?
there's no splashes left to make. The only thing he could do, again, will he trade Isaiah Wynn? Well, is that going to make him, if he trades Isaiah Wynn for a draft pick like he traded Shaq Mason, is that going to help an offensive line now that isn't doing very well? I mean, it's not like there's a ready replacement. Or if they move Onwenu over, is there a ready replacement at guard? Do you know what I'm saying? There's just too many moving parts you have to make. And the line for this offense is so important to what they want to do, whether it's running the football or, having Mac throw the football. It all starts up front. So again, I wouldn't put Isaiah Wynn in your top 20, 30, 40 tackles, but he's better than a lot.
Yeah.
Or let me rephrase that. He's better than what you're going to get on the street right now.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's the question. I mean, I pulled up the free agent list, and it was like, it's all old guys. I mean,
Journeyman.
There's there. He's 34. Right. There's some other former Patriots linemen that are there. D Ford, who's there, but he's a 31-year-old kind of.
Where I would do is I would look for guard. Because I, in my heart of hearts, believe Onwenu is much better out at tackle.
I do too.
But here's the problem with, even though he's better, he was just about an all-pro tackle his rookie year. But here's the problem. If they really want to go to this outside zone scheme, he's a terrible fit at tackle.
I agree.
I mean, he's a mountain of a man who basically puts people on the ground when they come at him. He's not someone who is he's going to lumber out to, side. It just doesn't fit him.
Yeah. He's going to get beat around the edge by the Myles Garretts and,
Right. So he's not a fit in the if they do continue to go with this outside zone deal. He doesn't fit as a tackle. He's better as a guard, even though he's miscast there too. So
that offensive line seems like a band of misfit toys. And I was talking to somebody today about Cole Strange, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he's replacing David Andrews." And I was like, "No, David Andrews is still the number one center. Cole Strange is now playing guard, so he's even not in his natural position." So,
well, I think eventually he will be David Andrews' replacement.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of his athletic traits, he fits the zone scheme best. But he's still having trouble with it. So
he's a rookie. Like Mike said before, Bill doesn't always have the best luck with a rookie, and with rookies, and like you said, he doesn't always like to rely on them. But right now, he's relying hugely on Cole Strange to protect his investment.
Well, here's the other reason for the offensive line, or people being slow or not grasping. There's no Scarnecchia there to beat it in them.
Right.
And be with them 24/7, making sure they get it and understand it and know what the heck they're doing. Because again, Patricia's time is divided. And I mean, I don't know what Billy Yates can teach him, but obviously it ain't working.
Right.
Right. So, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes, whether they ditch it for a time and just go with what they do best or know best. Again, we will find out on September 11th.
I can't wait, honestly. And it's really interesting to see Belichick shuffling around an offensive line as much as he does and messing with those pieces when he is pretty much the reason why, or part of the reason why, left tackles are paid so much, as he was the defensive coordinator of the Giants when Lawrence Taylor hit Joe Theismann coming around the edge. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. But a lot of these things don't make sense to me. Like I said, he could be playing Parcheesi when he thinks he's playing chess. But Karen, thank you so much for sitting down with us once again. We love having you on. Mike may still be waiting for an apple pie. I don't know how.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, still am.
That's right. Hey, Mike, it's in the mail with my wedding invitation.
Great.
Yeah, right. So Karen Guregian, thank you very much, of the Boston Herald. And Karen, once again, I think everybody kind of knows where to find you right now, but how can we find you on Twitter and on Herald?
Twitter at K Guregian or Karen. I don't even know what my Herald is. Karen.Guregian at BostonHerald.com.
I feel like I just said Globe, and I don't want to offend you that way. So Boston Herald, I'm making sure that I say it again and again. So thank you very much, Karen. Follow Karen on Twitter. Honestly, some of the best Boston sports content you're going to find, and I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I'm saying that because we get a lot of our stuff for our shows from you. So we do appreciate you coming on once again with us. For Mike Marcangelo, I am Joe Malkin, and we will talk to you next time on the MTP on 617, presented by Crowworthy.